History of Aviation. The history of aviation extends for more than 2000 years, from the earliest forms of aviation such as kites and attempts at tower jumping to supersonic and hypersonic flight by powered heavier than air jets. The Wright military flyer aboard a wagon in 1908. The picture shown is the Wright military flyer aboard a wagon in 1908. Kite flying in China dates back to several hundred years BC and slowly spread around the world. It is thought to be the earliest example of man-made flight. Leonardo da Vinci's 15th century dream of flight found expression in several rational but unscientific designs, though he did not attempt to construct any of them. The discovery of hydrogen gas in the 18th century led to the invention of the hydrogen balloon at almost exactly the same time that the Montgolfier brothers rediscovered the hot air balloon and began manned flights. Various theories in mechanics by physicists during the same period of time, notably fluid dynamics and Newton's law of motion, led to the foundation of modern aerodynamics, most notably by Sir George Cayley. Leonardo da Vinci's ornithopter design is shown in the picture. Balloon, both free flying and tethered, began to be used for military purposes from the end of the 18th century, with the French government establishing balloon companies during the Revolution. The term aviation, noun of action from stem of Latin avis, birth, with suffix action, suffix ation, meaning action or progress, was coined in 1863 by French pioneer Guillaume Joseph Gabriel de la Landelle, 1812 to 1886, in aviation, navigation, air renaissance balloons. Experiments with gliders provided the groundwork for heavier than aircraft, and by the early 20th century, advances in engine technology and aerodynamics made controlled powered flight possible for the first time. The modern aeroplane with its characteristic tail was established by 1908, and from then on the history of the aeroplane became tied to the development of more and more powerful engines. The first great ships of the air were the rigid dirigible balloons pioneered by Ferdinand von Zeppelin, which soon became synonymous with airships and dominated long distance flight until the 1930s. When large flying boats became popular after World War II, the flying boats were in their turn replaced by land planes, and the new and immensely powerful jet engine revolutionized both air travel and military aviation. In the latter part of the 20th century, the advent of digital electronics produced great advances in flight instrumentation and fly-by-wire systems. The 21st century saw the large-scale uses of pilotless drones for military, civilian, and leisure use. With digital controls, inherently unstable aircraft such as flying wings became possible. Primitive beginning. We will see the first part of the history of aviation, that is primitive beginning. In that subtopic is tower jumping. The picture shown is the Daedalus working on Icarus wings. From the earliest legends, there have been stories of men strapping bird-like wings, stiffened cloaks, or other devices to themselves and attempting to fly, typically by jumping off a tower. Actually, it is a human picture having wing-like design, wing-like dresses they wear in their body to jump from the tower so that they feel that they can fly. The Greek legend of Daedalus and Alcaraz is one of the earliest known. Others originated from India, China, and European Middle Age. During this early period, the issues of lift, stability, and control were not understood, and most attempts ended in serious injury or death. They tried to create a lift by by means of designing the wings without having a steady principles of aerodynamics, and they ended in serious injury or death because of unstable wings and unstable designs of aerodynamics. In the 17th century, the Algerian historian Ahmed Mohammed al-Makhari stated that the Andalusian scientist Abbas ibn Firnas (1810 to 1887 AD) made a jump in Cordoba, Spain, covering his body with vulture feathers and attaching two wings to his arms. No other sources record the event. Writing in the 12th century, William of Malmesbury stated that the 11th century Benedictine monk Aylmer of Malmesbury attached wings to his hands and feet and flew a short distance. Beyond those based on William's account, there are no other known sources documenting Aylmer's life. Many others made well-documented jumps in the following centuries, as late as 1811. Albrecht Berblinger constructed an ornithopter and jumped into the Danube at ULM. Man-carrying kites. Man-carrying kites are believed to have been used extensively in ancient China for both civil and military purposes, and sometimes enforced as a punishment. An early recorded flight was that of the prisoner Yuan Hangtao, a Chinese prince, in the 6th century AD. Stories of man carrying kites also occur in Japan following the introduction of the kite from China around the 7th century AD. It is said that at one time there was a Japanese law against man carrying kites. Rotor wings. The use of a rotor for vertical flight has existed since 400 BC in the form of a bamboo copter, an ancient Chinese toy. The similar moulinet, a Noix rotor on a nut, appeared in Europe in the 14th century AD. Hot air balloons. The picture shown is a hot air balloon, a sky lantern. The name of this balloon is a sky lantern. From ancient times, the Chinese have understood that hot air rises and have applied the principle to a type of small hot air balloon called a sky lantern. A sky lantern consists of a paper balloon under or just inside which a small lamp is placed. Sky lanterns are traditionally launched for pleasure and during festivals. According to Joseph Needham, such lanterns were known in China from the 3rd century BC. Their military use is attributed to the General Zhuge Liang, 180 to 234 AD. Honorific title Kong Ming, who is said to have used them to scare the enemy troops. There is evidence that the Chinese also solved the problem of aerial navigation using balloons hundreds of years before the 18th century. The Renaissance. The picture shown is the one of Leonardo's sketches. Eventually, some investigators began to discover and define some of the basics of rational aircraft design. Most notable of this was Leonardo da Vinci. It is the sketch of the Leonardo da Vinci about the wings, different designs of wings in the ancient times. although his work remained unknown until 1797 and so had no influence on development over the next 300 years. While his designs were at least rational, they were not based on particularly good science. Leonardo da Vinci's designs are not approved because he is not good in science, and his design is not accepted or approved. Leonardo studied bird flight, analyzing it and anticipating many principles of aerodynamics. He did at least understand that an object offers as much resistance to the air as the air does to the object. Newton, an object offers as much resistance to the air as the air does to the object. He don't have a good knowledge about um, the law, the principles based on the aerodynamics. Newton would not publish the third law of motion until 1687. From the last years of the 15th century on, he wrote about and sketched many designs for flying machines and mechanisms, including ornithopters, fixed-wing gliders, rotorcraft, and parachutes. His early designs were man-powered types, including ornithopters and rotorcraft. However, he came to realize the impracticality of this and later turned to controlled gliding flight, also sketching some designs powered by a spring.